I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. At first, everything was perfect, or so I thought. She was beautiful, smart, and confident. We met in college, and she swept me off my feet. We were the couple everyone admired, happy, successful, the kind of relationship people envied. But over the past few months, something felt off. Little things, you know. She'd be secretive about her phone, quick to hang up if I walked into the room while she was texting. She started working late more often, claiming it was just meetings, deadlines, the usual corporate bullshit. I didn't press her about it, partly because I didn't want to be that guy, and partly because I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. Then, last month, everything changed. Lisa told me she was going to a conference in New York for a week. She packed her bags, kissed me goodbye, and left early Monday morning. I remember watching her walk out the door, feeling a strange mix of pride and something I couldn't quite place. But I was busy with work, so I didn't give it much thought. The first few days I was fine. I even felt relieved that she was gone, maybe some space would do us good. But then strange things started happening. Small things at first. Missing calls from her which she insisted she didn't get, then a sudden change in her tone when she did answer. She was more defensive when I asked about her day, more dismissive of my concerns. Honestly, I just chalked it up to her being busy or stressed. But then I noticed something weird. I found her phone one night. It was unlocked, which I knew was stupid, but I couldn't resist. I wanted to see what she was hiding, and what I saw, it was like a punch in the gut. There were messages, flirty, dirty messages between her and someone named Mike. I don't know who he was at first, but the tone, the timing, it was obvious. They'd been talking about meeting up, about sex, about how much they wanted each other. And the worst part, the messages were from her, late at night, right around when I was probably sleeping or working late in the hotel room. I was stunned. I couldn't breathe. I sat there staring at her words, trying to process what I was seeing. She told me she was at some boring conference, that she was with colleagues, that she was working late every night. But this was different. This was real. She was lying to my face about it. I felt this cold, sick anger rising because I knew she'd been cheating on me. I wanted to believe it was just a fling, a mistake, that it was nothing serious. But the messages, the way they talked about sex, about sneaking around, it wasn't just some innocent flirtation. It was her cheating on me, actively lying about it and making plans to meet this guy again. I couldn't sleep that night. I felt betrayed, humiliated, like everything I believed in was a lie. I didn't know how to confront her because I was so furious, yet I was also heartbroken. It was like my whole world was crashing down around me, and I didn't even know how to start picking up the pieces. The next morning, I couldn't just sit there and pretend I didn't know. I felt this mix of rage and heartbreak boiling inside me. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I decided to check her phone again just to confirm what I saw. I thought maybe I was imagining things, that I was overreacting, but deep down I knew. The messages were there, clear as day. I also found a few pictures, her in some hotel room, half-dressed with that guy Mike, smiling like it was just another fun night. That was the moment I realized I'd been a fool. All those nights I thought she was working late, all those excuses about her being exhausted, about her not feeling well, they were lies. She was out there sleeping around, and I was left in the dark. I knew I had to confront her. I waited until she came home that afternoon. She looked tired, but there was that familiar bitchy attitude she always had when she didn't want to answer questions. I called her out the second she stepped through the door. I told her I knew about the messages, about her lying, about her cheating. Her face went blank for a second, then she started with her usual bullshit. "You're overreacting, Mike. It's none of your business. You're insecure, you're paranoid." That was her go-to move whenever she got caught. I saw right through her. She denied everything at first, then started spinning her stories, saying she was just talking to Mike, that it meant nothing, that I was crazy to accuse her of cheating. But I wasn't buying it. I felt this cold fury rise in me. She kept lying, calling me jealous, saying I was insecure because I didn't trust her. I told her I deserved honesty, that I wasn't going to tolerate her sneaking around behind my back. She looked angry now, her eyes narrowing, her tone getting bitchier. You're just a jealous husband. You don't trust me because you're insecure. Maybe you should look in the mirror. You're not perfect either." That was her way of turning everything around on me as if I was the problem. But I knew the truth. She was the one cheating, lying, and trying to gaslight me into silence. After that explosion, she stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, trembling with a mixture of rage and sadness. I never thought she was capable of this kind of betrayal. I felt like my entire world was collapsing. I kept replaying those messages, that hotel room picture, her smug face when she lied to me. I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or just break things. It was pure chaos inside my head. I felt completely lost, like I'd been punched in the stomach countless times, and I didn't know how I was going to get through this. The woman I loved, who I trusted more than anyone, had been sleeping around, lying to my face, and then had the audacity to call me insecure. That's when I realized this was just the start of something much darker. The days that followed were a blur. I was stuck in this weird limbo, angry one moment, devastated the next, then just numb. Every time I thought about confronting her again, I'd get this knot in my stomach. I couldn't understand how she could lie so easily, how she could be so bitchy and dismissive of everything we had. It was like I was talking to a stranger. The worst part was the way she kept denying everything, even after I showed her the messages and the pictures. Her typical line was, "You're just overthinking," or "You're paranoid, Mike," as if I was the crazy one, but I was. I knew what I saw, and I knew she was cheating. One night I decided to spy on her. I needed to know what she was doing when she was at those meetings. I installed a small app on her phone, something I never thought I'd do, but I was desperate. I wanted to catch her in the act, or at least get some clarity. The next day I watched her text with that Mike guy again, more explicit, more suggestive. It was obvious they'd been planning to meet again, and she was trying to hide it from me. That was when my stomach turned even colder. I realized how deeply she'd betrayed me. She was willing to risk everything, including her marriage, for some stupid fling with this guy. I remember feeling this intense mix of rage and sadness. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I also felt this crushing weight of betrayal. How could she do this to me? After everything we'd been through, our wedding, the trips, the promises. And now I was sitting here, watching her betray me like it was nothing. I felt so stupid for trusting her, for thinking she was the woman I married. I started questioning everything. Was I ever enough? Did she ever love me? Or was I just some placeholder while she chased some other guy? All these dark thoughts kept rushing through my head, and I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what just yet. Then, in a moment of clarity, I decided I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I needed to confront her again, this time with everything laid bare. I wanted to see her reaction face to face, see if she'd finally admit what she'd done. I stayed up that night, waiting for her to come home from her meeting. I was nervous, anxious, angry all at once. When she finally stepped back into the apartment, I was ready. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew about the affair, about her lying, about her sneaky meetings with Mike. I told her I wasn't going to be her fool anymore. That's when she finally cracked. Her bitchy mask slipped for a second and she snapped back at me, calling me jealous and paranoid again. But I saw it, her guilt. Her eyes darted, her voice trembled. She knew she'd been caught red-handed. After confronting her that night, the atmosphere in the apartment was thick with tension. Lisa's face was red with anger and annoyance, but I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes. She threw out some of her usual excuses, blaming alcohol, claiming Mike was just a work friend, denying any physical relationship, saying she loved me but was just insecure and couldn't handle her feelings. Her words were bitter and fast, like she'd practiced this line for a while, trying to spin her way out of it. She called me possessive and told me I was overreacting because I didn't satisfy her anymore. That was her way of turning everything around, as if I was the one at fault for catching her. I felt a strange mixture of rage and despair. I wanted her to admit the truth, but instead, she kept lying, pushing her version of the story. I could see how she was trying to manipulate me, to make me doubt myself, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her I'd had enough, that I knew she was cheating, lying, and that I wanted her out of my life if she didn't want to be honest. That's when she started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, acting like she was the victim. She told me I was breaking her, that she didn't mean for things to happen, that she was lost and confused. I was so furious I couldn't even look at her without feeling like I was going to explode. I told her I didn't want to hear her lies anymore, that I was done being played for a fool. I told her she better leave and never come back until she was honest with herself. That night, she packed her bags and left, slamming the door behind her. I was left alone, in a quiet apartment that suddenly felt way too big and way too empty. For a while, I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. How someone I loved and trusted could do something so cruel, how I'd been so blind. It was like my entire world had shattered into 1,000 pieces, and I was trying to pick them up, piece by piece, knowing I might never get it all back. In the days that followed, I kept replaying everything in my head. The lies, the betrayal, her bitchy attitude, the way she dismissed my feelings as jealousy. It all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I started questioning myself. Was I too clingy? Was I missing something? Or was she just a cold, calculating person who had no problem lying to my face? The hardest thing was knowing I'd never feel the same way about her again. That trust had been broken, maybe forever. I kept thinking about what to do next, whether to fight for the marriage or just cut my losses. But one thing was clear. My life had changed forever, and I was no longer the naive guy who believed in fairy tales. In the days that followed her leaving, I couldn't escape the thoughts racing through my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her texting Mike, her lying face, that hotel room picture. The betrayal cut so deep I started questioning everything about us, about who she really was. I tried to focus on work, but even that was hard. My friends kept telling me to move on, to forget her, but I couldn't. I kept remembering all the good times, the promises we made, how I thought she was the one. Now it felt like I'd been living a lie all along. One night, lying in bed, I felt this overwhelming urge to get some closure. I decided I needed to find out what she was doing now, if she was truly done or if she was still sneaking around. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, wondering if she was with Mike or someone else. So I started digging again. I installed a GPS tracker on her car just to see if she was nearby. Over the next few days, I tracked her movements. It turned out she wasn't just staying at some hotel for her conference. No, she was hanging out with Mike, meeting him in places she never mentioned, acting like they didn't have a care in the world. I knew then I had to take control of the situation. That was the moment I decided to execute my plan for revenge. I didn't want just to confront her anymore. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some pushover. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of her messages, photos of her with Mike, GPS logs. I wanted her to realize she'd crossed a line she could never come back from. I knew she was manipulative, always bitchy, always trying to make me doubt myself. But I was done playing nice. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be betrayed, to be humiliated, just like I felt. I knew I couldn't just let this slide, not without making her suffer a little for what she did. I also reached out to a private investigator just to be sure I had everything. It was a dirty move, I know, but I wanted to be absolutely certain of my facts. Sometimes the truth needs to be served cold. I wasn't planning to do anything rash. I just wanted her to see that I knew everything, that I was serious about ending this farce. I planned to meet her face to face, show her all the evidence, and give her a chance to admit everything. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to do something major. I couldn't go through life feeling like a damn fool who got played. I needed her to understand that. She destroyed what we had, and I'd make sure she paid for it. I was ready to face her, ready to see how she'd react when she finally realized I knew the truth, everything. The day I decided to confront her with everything I'd gathered felt like walking into a war zone. I arranged to meet her at that same coffee shop we used to go to before everything fell apart. My stomach was tight, and I could feel the adrenaline pushing through my veins. When she walked in, I didn't waste time. I looked her straight in the eyes and laid out all the evidence I had collected, screenshots, GPS logs, the photos from those hotel meetings. I saw her face drain of color, her bitchy attitude finally cracking. She stammered, tried to deny it all, but I wasn't buying her crap anymore. I told her I knew about her affair with Mike, about the lies, the sneaking around, the pregnancy she'd falsely claimed to me, everything. Her face twisted with anger and guilt, but she kept trying her manipulative tactics. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You're insecure. All this is your fault because you don't satisfy me." I could believe her audacity. I'd never felt so furious, so betrayed in my entire life. I told her she had no right to blame me, that she'd broken everything between us with her lies and her deceit. I told her she needed to leave, right then, because I didn't want her in my life anymore. She stormed out of the coffee shop, screaming at me, calling me a jealous, paranoid fool. I sat there watching her leave, feeling like I'd just been freed from a nightmare. As she disappeared down the street, I realized I finally had clarity. I've been a fool for so long, trusting her, loving her, believing her lies. But now I saw her true face, a manipulative, selfish woman who played with my feelings and then threw me away like trash. It hurt more than I could say, but at the same time I felt a strange sense of relief. I had taken back control, faced the truth, and made a decision, one that was best for me. That night I went home alone, and for the first time in months I slept peacefully. No more lies, no more secrets. I learned the hard way that betrayal cuts deep. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to face the pain head-on. I realized I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly loves me, not some bitchy woman sneaking around behind my back. Moving forward, I'm focusing on myself. I don't know what my future holds, but I know I'll be better off without her. Trust is hard to rebuild once broken, and I don't think I'll ever forget what she did, but I refuse to live in the shadow of her betrayal. I've learned that sometimes, the only way to truly move on is to face the truth, no matter how ugly it is.